Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at out here on this fine, clear California morning. 10:29 a.m. California time, January 16th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 2.6 down across the South America area there in the green flag, one of the latest quakes there. Seismograph stations out there around the globe, for the most part, look fairly quiet. One little spike of an earthquake there in Southern California, so that's where we'll start. Earlier this morning, or I should say just after midnight, late last night if you're up that late, 2.8 right up against the San Andreas Fault here near Mentone. That earthquake coming in about 4 miles deep there. It was felt in the region. A little bit of aftershock sequences there following that 2.8 as well. And some foreshocks just a few minutes prior to the 2.8. No big earthquake activity out here across the region for now, but this is just another sequence of swarming type events right up against the San Andreas Fault, something we've been watching here for, it goes back a few months here. Off and on quiet activity, and followed up by elevated earthquake activity here. So just got to keep an eye on it. Been quite active out here against the San Andreas Fault here recently. Also a couple earthquakes here at the interchange of the Garlock Fault shear zone and the San Andreas Fault. A couple smaller ones about 9 o'clock this morning here. Los Angeles area pretty quiet. Further down south around the Salton Sea area, a couple smaller quakes there along the San Jacinto Fault Zone. This activity near the Ocatello Wells region been swarming off and on yesterday. One more earthquake there today, a little 0.9. Some smaller movement here across the Imperial Fault down south. Some ones coming in this morning. Just a little bit of increasing movement out here across Southern California today. But again, no big earthquake activity to report for now. Up in Northern California, the Bay Area, fairly quiet. A couple smaller quakes there from yesterday around the Concord Fault. And up around Northern California, well, a few earthquakes here this morning. It looks like the latest at 3.2 in a little cluster here just off the plate boundary. This is going to be on the Pacific side of the plate boundary. Pretty shallow crustal quakes here going on. A sign of some built-up strain in this region. Of course, this is the area that had the 7-pointer here back early December. Seen a pretty good amount of earthquake activity following that 7-pointer, but we could see anything as far as larger activity take place at any given time out here in California. This area of California is very seismically active, and of course it sits right around the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area, which is got to watch that. It's been building up some steam here for a little while. Here's an earthquake from yesterday, 2.6, fairly deep underneath the area, 22 miles deep there for the that subduction zone earthquake. Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet. Nothing going on there across the Intermountain West region there. Yellowstone looks pretty quiet, but I'm going to double check that and see, make sure we don't leave anything out. I did not want to go to that one. There we go. Looks like we got some further wind events happening out there, and I say that because it's normally always the case here when it comes up like these darker blue lines indicating some type of wind noise or environmental noise. And, well, let's just double check that and make sure, see if we got the right map here. Bring up the wind gust out here, and it's fairly windy day out there across Yellowstone National Park. Looks like it will increase as well, so we should see those darker blue lines continue for the next couple hours. That's not earthquake activity, not magma on the move. That is simply the seismograph stations out here being exposed to the elements, and in this case, the wind. Those are all wind events there on the Pitchstone Plateau station. Aside from that, earthquake activity, really don't see any, because if there were activity stirred up in the background noise of the wind, it would show up on the seismograph stations out here around the park, but it's just not. One little spike, if I were to really look for one, but there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity happening up here for now. Texas oil fields, a little bit quieter out here today. Most of this is from yesterday out there in the Permian Basin region of Texas. 17 earthquakes in the last 24 hours out in the oil fields. New Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet. A glance here at the largest magnitude so far today after midnight. It's going to be this 5.1 earthquake outside of Vanuatu. That coming in about 19 miles deep there for the quake. Fiji Islands area, really shallow for this area, 4.9, 64 miles deep there into the Tonga Trench. Japan up here, a lot of activity from yesterday. Looks like we only had one more earthquake here today so far, a 4.1 into the Izu Trench, fairly deep at 263 miles here for that 4-pointer. Again, activity all around the Nankai Trough here. Still continuing to watch this region for some potential larger earthquake movement. We're coming up on that time period here where we could see a segment or two rupture. It's been a little while since we've seen any adjustment out here across that subduction zone. And of course, all this activity around it is putting a strain on it. Typical numbers out here around the Indonesia Islands area. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit here. I don't think that's quite 24 hours. There we go. Still pretty busy out there across the Indonesia Islands area. Philippines, almost up to Taiwan. But this is a pretty common sequence of events there on any given day. New Zealand, some threes out there. Really nothing big to report down there for now. And up in Alaska, got some threes out there across the Aleutian Trench today, but really nothing of any abnormal activity. Fairly decent trail. It's kind of neat looking across the Aleutian Trench, 2s and 3s. But again, nothing big going on there for now. What do we got coming in here? 2-pointer into the Petrolia station. That's going to be, wow, they're actually reporting it this time. There's the Petrolia station here picking up that 2-pointer just coming in within the last few minutes. That barely showed up on the Dinsmore station, but we've seen this time and time again here. Hundreds of these type of events show up on Petrolia, barely anything on Dinsmore, and it not get reported there. But surprisingly, it is this time. One out of how many hundreds of earthquakes that has gone unreported, but hey, I'll take it. 15 miles deep there for a reported 2-pointer into the southern end here of the Cascadia megathrust area. So continuing to watch that region. Been quite active out here. And of course, it's all got to do with time frame, right? Time has passed. A lot of time has passed out here in terms of larger scale activity across many regions that are expecting some larger movement in the future. Could be today, could be tomorrow. We just don't know exactly, but it's all about time. Ethiopia rift boundary out here. Some 4s from yesterday. Nothing new to report. A little smaller earthquake out there from last night out in the Indian Ocean. Still getting some broader scale activity up here across the Himalayas. Of course, the largest earthquake so far this year going to be this 7-pointer, 7.1 Tibet area just outside of Nepal. Just north of Mount Everest as well. That 7.1 obviously is going to stir up a lot of aftershock activity, but seeing a whole bunch of further adjustment inland, let me know that there's quite a bit of strain out here across the area. Could see some further larger movement around the plate boundary. This is obviously a super dynamic plate boundary region, and it can produce some large earthquakes like we've seen here with that 7-pointer recently. So elevated activity out there today. Latest is going to be a 4.4 north of the Himalayas at 6 miles deep. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. A couple smaller quakes up around Iceland. I was just checking this here. No further activity. Let me refresh this. Really no further activity here around the Bardabunga region. That earthquake, or that area had a pretty decent earthquake swarm here just a few days ago. Now, it looks like everything's mellowed out. Where am I? I got to go back down here. The hand is just too big for the Bardabunga volcano, which is back at a green. But a couple days ago, they had a really interesting earthquake swarm out here. Potential sign of some type of magma intrusion going on. But as you can see in the last 24 hours, really nothing else being reported in that area. Things have calmed down. A little bit of further escalation here across the Reykjanes Peninsula and over here across this area of Iceland. Looks like some type of activity stirring up here. That's normally when we see this elevated activity on a broad scale event, that's just a sign of the rift boundary out here, which is Iceland. Just seeing some increasing movement. And of course, you know, when that takes place, we could see elevated magma intrusions out here. Again, nothing going on across the Bardabunga region. The area of Grindavik continues to rise down here. Let's check out the real-time GPS stations here. The Grindavik area inflation chart here still shows when our last eruption there was back in November. It ended. Obviously, we're starting to go back up in terms of inflation. Not quite there yet in terms of matching the previous level of inflation right up before the eruption. This is the vertical displacement chart here. And with the most recent runtime there at the 16th of January. So continue to watch that. Obviously, we're going to see things resume here shortly. Hawaii, nothing showing up there, but I believe we're still in the eruption stage. Last night showed us some fountaining going on there across the Kilauea volcano, which continues this morning. Beautiful imagery, and they do have a YouTube channel, the USGS does, that is having a live stream there pointed at this area. Pretty cool to check out. It's provided here on their USGS page. But yeah, a little bit of fountaining going on there. That's actually a lot. Those are very large in comparison to trees up here on the surface level. So looks like that's continuing the eruption stage at Kilauea Volcano. Latest update here was put out yesterday. They just mentioned here about the flowing low-level continuous lava spattering that started with more rigorous lava flow activity. So we got things flowing freely and fountaining, and some of those we could see up around 250 feet or so, 80 meters, vigorous high fountains. That's pretty cool. I would love to be out there to see that at night. Got to make for a pretty spectacular show. So depending on how much is stored down below, this could go on for a little while in terms of the current eruption. Deformation data out here will probably show a downslope, which is obviously sign of deflation. Pretty sharp one here on the week chart. So no telling how long this will continue. Could be for some time. Either way, it's slowly filling back up the lava lake area. And eventually that thing will be full. And then who knows what will happen before or afterwards. But it is filling up this crater area. This is an older image, I believe. I'm not for sure when it's from, but I believe it's much fuller than that now. All right, let's see. Anything else major going on around the globe? Yeah, not a whole lot right now. All right, let's check out the space weather activity. There's a number of sunspots out here that we're going to watch here through the week and weekend. Now, whether they're going to be super complex and produce some stronger flares, who knows? But where'd this area come from? Look at this sunspot area right here. From last night's image to today's image, it's grown quite rapidly in a short time period. So that may be something to watch here. It is getting somewhat of magnetic complexity here. Keep an eye on that for some super impulsive type flaring. And really not super impressed with the rest of these sunspots over here on the eastern quadrant of the sun, or the eastern area here of the sun. Maybe this region right up here could produce some flaring, but we'll keep an eye on it. Not a huge flare threat right now. 15% chance for X flare, M flare at 50, C flare around 99% chance or so. And again, this one here has popped up out of the blue. See if it'll load, hopefully. And it is currently flaring and growing quite rapidly. So when that happens here, that's when things can, produce those impulsive type events. Look at that little bright feature right here on that new sunspot. I don't believe, well, it looks like it is named 3964 right here. No major roars there in the forecast for now, folks. Pretty quiet across that level. Quick glance at the Storm Prediction Center for severe weather. Not a whole lot of severe weather expected today. The numerical models out here in terms of long-term forecasts. We'll go ahead and check this out, see what we have. A lot of cold air coming down from Canada into the majority of the country out here as we head towards the weekend and early next week. Well below normal temperatures. Not a whole lot of moisture associated with that, but looks like towards the end of next weekend could see some snow out there, maybe some severe weather south as that cold air intermixes with the moisture down here across Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas area. As far as California goes, man, I wish I could say the pattern's going to flip and bring us sufficient rainfall, but it's not looking likely. There's some type of weak system here on the 25th, 26th time period of this month. After that, well, it's return to cold air back east and high pressure ridging out west. Not looking promising here for California rainfall, specifically Southern California. Quick glance here at the Watch Duty wildfire map. Shows that they're getting a handle on these things. The Eaton fire here looks like that's getting some good containment on it. 55% containment, 14,000 acres burned there above the Pasadena area. That not showing any hot spots out there, so that is good news for that fire. The Palisades fire over here, 22% containment. Obviously a larger area to map out in terms of containment area lines, but I'm not seeing any hotspot areas out there. Clear view. The skies, really no smoke out there from what I can see, aside from the typical smog. But that's good news. They're getting a handle on it. Again, no hot spots being observed across that area of the Palisades fire. And really no new fire starts out there, at least listed here on the CAL FIRE map. Let's see here. There's that 2-pointer still. China Lake down there. If you look, there's quite a few little spikes going on there. Normally, that's a sign of increasing strain out here on that area. But even though the seismograph station there is showing some earthquake activity, it's not showing up on the USGS map, but it's there. So Southern California, obviously, seen a little bit of uptick here in the last couple days. Even this morning, got some activity right there at the interchange of that fault zone, Garlock Fault Shear Zone, which can really build up a lot of strain, act as a spring on the area. Good possibility this could be where the big one unzips the southern end of the San Andreas Fault for the 8.1. So got to watch that. Another earthquake here just off of that area for a 1.9 here in the last few minutes. But just stay safe out there, folks. We'll be watching this on the side. By the way, I did not get a chance to do the member drawing here yesterday. I apologize. Just been super swamped, super sick as well. But we'll get that done this afternoon. Got everyone into a fish bowl. I just got to set up the tripod here. And we'll pick out a lucky winner today out of our member drawing. And we'll get that done here about, we'll shoot for 3 o'clock again. I don't have anything planned, no major water leaks or anything going on. So today's an open schedule. So we'll go ahead and get that done today at about 3 o'clock California time here. And we'll see you guys back then as a secondary live stream. So, all right, have a good one, folks. Hopefully my voice will be a little bit better by then. Take care.